go. Quiet on the set. Welcome to Geeks Corner. I'm Mr. DAPS.
I'm Katie.
Australian researchers have identified that sharks can correctly identify jazz.
Jazz?
Jazz music.
Jazz music.
Correct.
Huh.
Do they like it?
And I'm Cameron. Nope, I'm Cameron. Nobody likes jazz.
I like
You should
jazz.
use the hashtag
Videos.
Geeks Corner on Twitter to talk to us about how bad jazz is in general.
What?
Also Geeks Corner. Hashtag Geeks Corner. Bad jazz.
What?
Video's choppy. So it's my favorite recurring joke that we do at work. There's a line from The Good Place where she talks about jazz, and she's like, "We get it. You can blow on a trumpet. Wrap it up, Elton John." And it's a thing we do at work all the time. And people are always like, "Elton John didn't." We're like, "That's the joke. That is the joke."
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm very disappointed people don't like jazz. That's sad.
Oh, do you hear the verbiage she's using? Get jazz, not enjoy. No, you have to be on an echelon of understanding to be with Mr.
You
Dad.
just don't get it.
Funny story is when I was in college, I took a few jazz classes, and one of them was jazz piano, which almost killed me. For as much as I could play jazz bass and some other instruments, jazz piano was not happening. You would think they would transfer over, but they didn't. It was pretty brutal and pretty rough. All right.
You're not doing it wrong correctly.
That was very true. Yeah.
Are you just not free-spirited enough? Like, what's the...
I don't know, because, like...
hear the sound of your voice in the smell of what you're playing.
I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, if they want to join the conversation, Cameron, and tell us how much they love jazz, have they told us this yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I mentioned the Geeks Corner.
Perfect.
It was
I'm
more
still
about
thrown
jazz.
off by the jazz thing. I'm sorry. Well, we'll move into the first topic tonight, which is that construction has stopped at the Disneyland Resort, which is not a huge surprise, given the different rules and provisions that are in place to keep us all safe.
Safer at home.
Yes, safer at home. But because of this, all construction has stopped on things like Haunted Mansion and Snow White, her maybe not so scary adventure. We'll see what it turns out to be whenever it reopens. And probably most importantly, or the most high profile stoppage, is the Avengers campus that has now stopped. And so earlier today we went on Twitter and we asked, what would you like to hear us talk about? And the thing that came up was the impact for the Disneyland Resort for all of the closures with and stoppages with COVID-19. And Katie, would you like to go first? I'm not looking at any of you because I'm looking at the other screen. But
sure.
What do you think the impact of this closure and the stopping of the construction is going to be on the Disneyland Resort? First off, like in the next, let's say 6 months to a year, but then bigger picture, maybe like 5 years, 10 years down the line.
So I am worried. Specifically, I'm worried short term for Avengers Campus.
Mm-hmm.
Because they literally just announced an opening date, and I think that opening date was also very reliant on the fact of them getting a lot of work done in the next couple months.
Yeah.
And I'm worried because a lot of places are extending until the 19th of April, and even if we go Knott's Berry Farm, they've extended until mid-May, and that would only give them roughly a month and a half to finish Avengers Campus construction, which is scary, and I don't know that could be done. I mean, Imagineers are also fascinating people that can work incredibly quickly, but I would be worried about Avengers Campus. Long term, I feel like there is a lot of maintenance that was being done during this. I think there was some tidying up, and whatnot going on, and so I'm worried. I mean, Disney always finds time to refurbish things, and a lot of magic happens overnight with a lot of third shift cast members. But I am worried that some of the maintenance that needed to happen right now might not get done. So,
Okay. And what do you think longer term? What is this going to do for the resort?
I think that Disneyland is going to bounce back just fine, even if Avengers Campus, say, worst case scenario, Avengers Campus gets pushed back to like October or so. I still think they're going to be okay. Like, from what I've noticed, they've when they announced the July 18th opening day for Avengers Campus, they sent out push notifications to everybody's phone. And there was like these giant media campaigns, which is something they did not do for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge because they were so worried about crowds.
Yeah.
So I think that they have already positioned themselves in a better marketing standpoint for Avengers Campus, just with the fact that they have so many people that are involved and invested.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that already they are in a better place, because everybody said last summer was not super successful. I loved it as a pass holder because no one was there. But I get that as the resort, that wasn't the best summer for them. So I think that this summer, Avengers Campus or not, there's going to be guests. And I think that whenever Avengers Campus opens, it's going to open to a lot of guests that want to see it.
I think you're probably right. Cameron, what do you think? Short term, long term?
Seconded. Katie's right on just about everything she just said. I think a pushback of certain things like Adventure Campus is inevitable. I feel like all of the theme parks are currently playing a reverse game of Price is Right. So whoever can be the closest to safe date to open without going under. And
who do you think's winning right now?
Knott's is playing. I think Universal is currently the winner.
I do too.
They pushed to April 19th, which is a little bit more of a middling ground. They don't want to be the first ones open, but they don't want to push back as far as Knott's and lose profits.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they chose a middling date there. I would not be surprised if in the next 24 to 48 hours we see a similar announcement from Disney.
I was surprised we didn't get one today.
Yeah, I think that they're analyzing their bets, and they're going to try to either go further under. I wouldn't be surprised if they do end of April in the next 24 hours. But I think the way they're going to stage it is that it's going to be end of April, but middle of April they're going to start welcoming back cast members in general to do some fix-em-up'ems.
And probably open downtown Disney early.
Yeah. The things that aren't non-ticketed over there in the hotels, probably at a reduced rate. But the reason being is I think Disney's strength is going to be in that they're going to open with something.
Yeah.
They're wanting to either open with Adventures Campus, or they're wanting to open with some spectacular that's going to be an invite back, which is, I think, where they're going to have an edge over the other theme parks. And I kind of think that's where they're...
Well, and they're also just going to have momentum for having a new parade that we only got, 2 weeks of? Week and a half?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so there's still the brand new car effect, I guess you could say, with that. And I did see a permit that seemed to indicate that maybe Disney California Adventure Food and Wine might be extended through the summer as well. And so to me, it looks like they are exploring their options. I think my hunch is we're not going to see anything overly hugely spectacular beyond Adventures Campus if it does open on time. Mainly because I don't think they're going to be able to invest in too many different places with where they're at right now. Because the sad fact of the matter is they're hemorrhaging money, I have to think, with not having the parks open and income streams coming from that and from cruises and from movies and all of this stuff. Like they're losing a lot of money, and they flat out said from day one that Disney Plus was going to take a while to make money. So it will be curious to see what the reintroduction, I think was a good word, of cast members and guests are to the Disneyland Resort as we move forward. I'm looking at my calendar over here. I'm wondering I could see them doing the thing you said where they're going to say the end of the month for April. I could also see them doing something that's like a 2 week at a time kind of thing. And mainly this is not even we're definitely opening in 2 weeks, but I could just see them saying it's going to be every 2 weeks they're going to revisit this. I don't know if they'll do that or not. I think you guys both have very good points that there's certain maintenance things that need to happen at the resort all the time to keep it going, keep it pretty, keep it polished, keep it safe. All of those things, I'm going to assume they're going to figure out one way or the other. My hunch is where there's no construction happening right now, maintenance still is. Often those are smaller crews, and it might fit within I wouldn't be surprised if they figured something out with that. On the flip side, it will be interesting to see which projects get dialed back, which projects maybe don't even happen moving forward. I think the ones that have been announced most likely will still, but it will be interesting to see the ones that maybe were about to be announced, or the ones that were kind of in the pipeline that were maybe for 3, 4, 5, even 10 years down the line. See how a thing like this really changes those plans. And the best analogy I have to this is 9/11, and that definitely changed the course of the Disney parks massively. And it'll be interesting to see. Like, I don't actually have a good prediction for it, other than I think if we were to look at if they had a trend line or a detailed 5-year plan or 10-year plan that was in place, let's say March 1st, I'm betting on April 1st or May 1st, that plan is going to look completely different for Disney. And to me, the biggest question mark doesn't happen at the Disneyland Resort. It actually happens at Walt Disney World, because it's got its 50th coming up. And I will be curious to see how it impacts, say, does Spaceship Earth still close on, was it May 26th? Or does that get pushed off? Or, some of the projects that are happening, particularly at Epcot, is that big building still going to happen? That's supposed to be the...
Oh, I hope so. The Festival Center.
The Festival Center.
Oh, I want it.
Or does that come in maybe not as big, or maybe they change something? Like, Disney usually comes up with resourceful ways to do something different in when the situation changes. I think obviously we'll still get Ratatouille. That's almost done. I think the Guardians attraction over at Epcot's definitely going to happen. The Space 2020 restaurant, that's pretty much done. I think those things, you're not going to see a huge difference. I could see it impacting things like Spaceship Earth. I could see it impacting any potential changes happening to the Seas Pavilion, the Imagination Pavilion. I could see that any changes that were going to come to that might get pushed off as well to a more economically advantageous time. And who knows, maybe the economy is going to pop back real quick in 6 months or something like that, and I'll be completely wrong. But I just could see this having impact on things like that.
You just reminded me that in the midst of all this, Epcot is completely torn up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a horrifying
And
thought
they had to
me.
stop.
Yeah, that Epcot is completely torn up right now. Like, everywhere around the entire park. Mm-hmm. And to think that they had all these grand plans for what they have torn up, and that
it's crazy.
Things might change is horrifying to me.
To me, though, that's one of the great things about Disneyland, though, or Disney in general, though, is the fact that they can have these great plans, and then they can come up with something else too if needed. Cameron, do you have any thoughts on all that?
I agree that there's going to be a lot of pushback on a lot of things. I don't foresee that economic spike happening as well. So I am betting that there's going to be a lengthening of the project. I don't actually think they're going to cancel anything.
Yep,
I think there's going to be a little bit more, undisclosed extenuation of them, and we might see 2021 being a replicated year of dates, kind of the same assumed timeline, because
I think it'd be further
getting
back,
closer and closer to their.
The reason I
So
say it
I,
though
I
is because 2021 will be the 50th of Walt Disney World, and the last thing you want is your flagship. I'm speaking specifically Spaceship Earth. You don't want your marquee attraction closed during a year like that. So my hunch is you'd actually see it bumped back 2 years or 3 years, and the moment the 50th, I'm gonna assume 18 months is over, uh, that would be if they really pushed it back. That would be when they redid Spaceship Earth. Or the other option is they do a much more dialed down version of what they've already announced, so that they can start late and still get done on time for the 50th.
yeah, maybe it's not so much the year that I'm talking about as far as if it's a year, 2 years, or 3 years. It's that the timeline for a theme park is kind of like playing hopscotch or
Yeah.
jump rope, in that there are certain times of the year that you can jump in to do the thing. So if
That
they
is
miss
also
their
true.
mark this year to be able to finish it, they will have to jump in either next year or the year after that. But there's a certain window that you'll see those dates start lining up.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so I think we've hit that, right? We're good with that
I
topic.
think so. Yeah.
All right, let's move right along, Fozzie. And we now know that Mandalorian Season 2 is even cooler. At least I think it's even cooler. Ahsoka Tano is going to be apparently in it with Rosario Dawson in that role. Very quickly, what do you guys think of this casting choice?
I like it more than you.
I don't dislike it. So you're saying you love it?
Like I said, love isn't the right word, and I'm certainly not as familiar with the character as Mr. Daps is, for example. But I enjoy the actor they've casted, and
I actually agree with you as I've been thinking about it more. I think she's going to bring some depth to the character just from other things she's done, and she will. At the end of the day, she has a lot of screen experience, and I think that's going to work well for her. And I mean, really, this is a big show, and it's going to be a big year, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, you had to kind of get a big screen actress. Katie, what do you think?
I talked about it on the Star Wars live stream, but I am very heartbroken for Ashley because Ahsoka and Ashley have kind of become really hard to separate.
Yeah.
Like, they've become very much the same. I will say something I've watched over the last couple days is that Ashley is also very heartbroken, but she's not taking this opportunity to attack anyone or say anything. She's being incredibly professional, and all she's doing is expressing her love for the character. She's not saying anything bad about the people that casted or the person that was casted or what have you. All she's been doing is spreading more light and more positivity,
which is really a testament to her and the character she's played, because I feel like
exactly
that works for both.
So that's been my hard thing to cope with, is because I feel like it is so hard for me to separate Ahsoka and Ashley.
Well, and I think she'll always be Ahsoka.
Yeah, well, then that's the point. To me, is that it's very hard for me to even picture anyone else bringing on the role. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's also something we discussed on the Star Wars live stream. That's Ashley does not stop being Ahsoka with the Mandalorian, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yep.
All right. Any final thoughts on that, Cameron?
I'm real excited about the Mandalorian coming back, you guys.
I am too.
It's gonna be so good.
That might be the thing I'm looking forward to most this year on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean that and the return of Goldblum. I assume he got signed up for a second season on that, right?
Yeah, he did.
I think so.
Yeah,
that is definitely. I just watched the barbecue one the other day. It was fun.
The combination of those two shows when they were releasing at the same time was fantastic, because I don't think I've ever had a point in my life where there were two shows running concurrently where I actually had to decide which one I wanted to watch first. And more often than not, it was Jeff Goldblum, simply because I feel like there was an energy to that where I could get into it, kind of take it, and then be like, okay, now I can watch.
He's got a way of relaxing you, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Very true. All right. Speaking of Disney Plus, we now know that Onward is going to be arriving on Disney Plus on April 3rd, and it's already available for digital download for like $20. There's a real, I guess you could say, change in the way things are happening in terms of movies, where there's been some that have gone, The Trolls has gone straight to digital download, and this is obviously upset some of the movie industry theater folk. But do you think that this new approach that's not being hit everywhere, but it's being tested, it seems like, will have any legs to it, or is this a product of the circumstance that will go away once the circumstance is gone as well?
I think it's a product of circumstance.
Good.
I will second on that as well.
Yeah, I would love to see it become a more used model, because, as I've discussed, also, I hate movie theaters a whole lot. I really hate movie theaters.
We're never getting picked up for nothing.
Tonight's program brought to you by Regal Entertainment.
Movie theaters scare me. They give me really bad anxiety, and I can't explain it. But there is something very unique about the movie theater experience, and I think that that's not going away anytime soon.
Cameron?
I think, and we discussed this again on the other live stream, but while I think that there's going to be advantageous aspects to this model right now, as far as profit loss, which they're trying to negate. Yeah. I think there's going to be a zeitgeist agreement for all of the movie industry folks and we're going back to the other system because it works to be playing on the same field, right? Right, cool. There's already been a lot of what they describe as the industry upset in the form of Netflix, Disney Plus already taking advantage of that. But when sticks come to biscuits, it's more profitable for them to follow the previous model. And if somebody chooses to go against that model, say Disney or Universal decided to stick with what they're doing right now after everybody else goes back, they will be losing hand over fist money.
I think you're right.
Unless everybody does it, nobody's going to do it.
Do you think there's also going to be kind of a rush back into the theater once people can and it's safe again? That people are just going to have that want to return to normalcy?
No, I don't.
Not unless there's something to see.
I'm only asking this from a historical standpoint because traditionally movies have been the thing that people turn to when times have been rough. And
I argue with that. It's not movies. It is sources of familiar entertainment.
Yes.
It's not movies held that, especially around World War I, World War II, to a lesser extent Vietnam. There were mass resurgences in that particular entertainment industry. But if you go further back than that, it was radio shows or concerts or the baseball games. I don't think movies hold that place right now.
So is this going to be the death knell for the modern cinema as we know it?
No, in the same way that it wasn't the death knell for radio. I just think that the resurgence is not going to be movie theaters. I think it's going to be the 21st equivalent to the entertainment normalcy or the experiential normalcy, which is probably festival mentality. I think that the huge like South by Southwest and Bonnaroo, they're going to see a giant oversell for the next few years as they open back up. I think that's where the boom is going to be. It's not. I think
that will be for a certain demographic, but I think there's other age groups that aren't going to connect with that. So it'll be curious to see how that plays out moving forward. And I don't know that I know what that return to normalcy will be. I mean, for all I know, it's people going to Denny's again. But
that's right.
All right. Finally, as we get a couple more minutes left of this show, Katie did a fantastic article the other day on the history of Figment. And Katie, I'm going to let you lead this off and talk to us a little bit about Figment and what you learned as you put this article together. And then I'd love to have a discussion on why Figment is so important, especially in this day and age.
So Figment is very important. Figment actually, so the Imagination Pavilion opened with Epcot in 1982, but Journey into Imagination, I just blanked for a second. There's so many names of this darn attraction. But Journey into Imagination opened in 1983 with Dreamfinder. Exactly. With Dreamfinder and Figment. And the biggest thing, I watched every incarnation of the attraction.
As you should.
Yeah. Well, I already have in bits and pieces, but I like watched everything full. That is the association that everyone has with Figment. When they think of Figment, they think of the original attraction Figment, which that ran until 99, I think, or 98. Because then the second attraction, Journey into Your Imagination, was 99, 2001, something like that. And that attraction had no Figment in it. So people didn't like it because there was no Figment. But that Figment was voiced by Corey Burton, who's done a lot of park stuff. And you should look him up because when I saw it was Corey Burton, I was like, get out of town. And then, so that was very not well received. So then they brought in Journey into Imagination with Figment, which is the same concept of the second attraction, which is the whole science experiment, but there is more Figment. In my, like, if I was put on a conspiracy theory hat, this feels a lot like the original Coke thing, where they changed it. They changed the recipe.
So we're gonna get Figment Classic.
I want Figment Classic. Classic Figment, yeah.
And they knew that people weren't gonna like it, so there's that thing in the middle, so that when they brought out the new thing, people wouldn't hate it as much because it wasn't going from something they loved to something that they didn't love, you know? Anyway, Figment is very important. And Imagination is one of those big pillars of Epcot Center, of the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. And I love him.
So why do you think he's important?
Because he is that, something I wrote about in the article is that Figment is created by Dreamfinder. Of all these things from Dreamfinder.
I was going to say, this is Dreamfinder erasure, and I will not stand for it.
We cannot skip Dreamfinder, yes.
Eccentric
but Figment was created by Dreamfinder, and the original attraction is all about teaching Figment to use his imagination for the world around him. And one of my favorite lines in the original attraction is, "Do you think they can imagine too?" And he's talking about the guests. And so it's really this journey of like Figment learning imagination and the guests, and it's literally what Disneyland was built on, is imagination, and it's the pillar. I'm getting really, really loud. Like I can feel myself yelling because I'm so passionate about it.
So Cameron, why is Figment important today? Or is he?
Well, yes, and so yes, Figment is important because unlike some things which tend not to last as far as characterizations in the park and that stuff, Figment represents an idea. And anytime you so strongly associate a character or concept with an idea, it tends to outlast the longevity of a character enjoyment. For example, the Fab Five have lasted as long as they do because they are archetypes. They are they've existed in the hero's journey for since time immemorial. Figment falls into that category because he represents a core value. And as a representation of core value, his association makes him eternal, and that's why I think it's going to be a time.
And that, why is the imagination so, like, to me, the importance of Figment isn't just what he represents, it's the reminder for all of us of, yeah, there's that childlike wonder that he brings to everything, but there's that constant pursuit of the imagination that comes out of what he is and what he represents. And to me, that's something that, like, Johnny, little peek behind the curtain of Geeks Corner, Johnny and I, when we were talking about Geeks Corner very early on, we're like, everything we do should be like Disney, and everything that Disney does is all about magic, even if it's not, magic. it's how can we always be thinking outside of the box? How can we be creating a magical experience for the people that are watching? And that's always been something that we've taken as a value and tried to. That's one of the reasons we try to be positive all the time. Is generally people like light magic better than they like dark magic. That's a generality, of course, but we've always tried to lean into that and build on that. And somewhere along the way, I made the realization that the magic that we really embrace really is embodied by Figment. And so I've talked about it multiple times. We've got a space on the set in Geeks Corner whenever we get back that I've always said it needs to have this, it has to be the exact right picture or painting or whatever of Figment, but Figment needs to be in Geeks Corner because so much of what we do is trying to come up with new ideas and not necessarily just talk about topics, but what can we do that's a fun out of the box kind of thing, and the world needs more Figment. Any other thing to add on that?
Yeah, I believe his next incarnation should finally admit that Figment is a member of the Q continuum for his ability to manipulate reality. I would like to see the TMG 1701D Q join forces with Figment.
When you think about this, though, that's not out of the realm of possibility, because the original series, they had a giant hand grab the Enterprise, and they also had Abraham Lincoln. So why not throw Figment?
So...
a giant celestial gaseous hand. Let's get it...
You're right, but yes.
They're important.
I don't have my bell, Cameron. So, ding.
Ding. You should go to thegeekscorner.com if you're not watching there already. The nice part about all of this being digital is as soon as you turn this off, we stop existing. So for our continued existence, please.
Go to dapsmagic.com. Check out all the Disney and geek news. As it happens, there's not a whole lot right now, but there is a lot of Figments. You should read about him. Subscribe to our mailing list and find our Patreon.
And subscribe to this YouTube channel because we do continue to put up new videos, and I've got a bunch of archived stuff that I'm trying to figure out how to take from a little tape and make it digital so that we can put it on our YouTube channel. So that'll be coming sometime soon. We're also doing DAPS Magic Live fairly frequently, and you can watch Murray play retro video games, which has been a whole lot of fun. Like, I've been surprised how much I've been getting into it. I know Katie's been getting into it. It's been a lot of fun to watch. But subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of it. We hope you have a fantastic week, and that is all the time we have for tonight, so we will see you around the corner.
Bye!
Bye.